Now we're going to make the pizza. And this one, they're about 270 grams each. They're beautiful. My work area, my workspace, I'm going to take my dough scraper, remove this from the container, place my dough right inside, right on top of the flour, and carefully pick up both sides so it doesn't stick, okay? This is about a 275 gram dough of a dough ball. And now what I'll do is I'm going to take my fingers and just lightly press. I like to make my dough a little bit puffy, so I'm not going to stretch it super large. And just lightly press. And it feels like a cloud. It's supple. And then what I'll do is, when it gets to this about 6 inches, I'm going to put it on the back of my knuckles. And just using my hands closed, I'm going to turn it just like this. Carefully not to poke through the dough, right? Isn't that beautiful? Look at the bubbles forming. Next thing I'm going to do, put this aside for 1 second. I'm going to take a wooden peel, right? I'm going to flour it up. I'm going to use a little semolina flour. Kind of dust it in. Less is more here. I'm exaggerating. I'm probably using a little bit more than I'd like to, but I want this, these are my ball bearings, and that's coming between the wood and the dough. I want this to slide like my dough, to slide like a puck. I'll place my dough on my peel, okay? You can see, and now before I do anything else, I'm gonna give it a little jiggle. That's a really important step. I'm gonna jiggle this dough throughout the pizza making process, okay? I don't want it to stick. If something does get stuck there, I will pick up that corner and just add a little bit more flour and then give it a jiggle again. It's still sliding like a puck. Super important. Now, I've got a nice round dough here. I like to pinch my edges. I kind of go around and just pinch them a little bit because that adds a little bit of texture to my bite, right? And my pizza. Again, not necessary, but I like to pinch. Okay? Isn't that gorgeous, right? Maybe give it one more stretch a little bit here. Boom. Really pretty. Isn't that gorgeous? So now what I'll do before I do anything else, I'm gonna slide it again. Intuitively, I do that throughout the process. Next, I'm gonna take my crushed tomatoes, right? And carefully place it on the center. And now I'm gonna move it around. I bring my tomatoes close to the edge, but not over the edge. I don't want the tomatoes dripping onto my peel. Gorgeous, right? Less is more. Ooh, I've got a little danger zone here, but nothing hit the peel, so I'm okay. I'm going to take a little bit of Romano, sprinkle it on there. Secret layer of flavor underneath, okay? And now I'm going to take some shredded cheese. This is like a whole milk mozzarella. Just press it on there. Again, try to even distribute it. Less is more on top. Now I'm going to give this I'm going to give it a pick up again. I'm going to give it a little jiggle again. It's still sliding like a puck. Awesome, right? That's what I need. A little bit more cheese. Not too heavy. Less is more. I'm going to take some fresh mozzarella now and just kind of lightly spread this around too. Right? Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I cut these into cubes. Sometimes I break them off by hand. I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil and just kind of drizzle it on there, just because I feel like it. No right or wrong reason there. I'm going to go over to my oven, which has been preheating for probably an hour and a half now. You can see I'm red, a little hot. I've got my steel, and I'm gonna show you inside in a second. I've got my steel in the top rack and a steel in the bottom rack. My pizza is ready to rock and roll. When that broiler turns red, I'm going in. I literally will, that'll be my visual cue to launch once that broiler goes on. This is an electric oven. I've tricked it. I've preheated it at 450 degrees. And the reason I do that versus 500 degrees, because if the oven gets too hot and I turn the broiler on, it will pause until the oven cools enough to turn the broiler on. So what I've done is I've tricked it. I've preheated at 450. Now when I turn my broiler on, I bet you when we peek inside, it's going to be on. And that's been probably less than a minute. So now I'm going to go in. I'm going to show you guys. All right, so there's my oven. I'm going to open her up. You guys can see. I slide my steel out. You can see my broiler's on. Can you see that? See the red? Back of my peel to the back of the steel, and I just kind of shake it off, just like that. Close it up. You can see my broiler, right? It's ripping hot. Close it up. I check my timer. 2 minutes. 2 minutes on inside that oven. And I like 2 minutes because I have the broiler on. If I leave it on for like, say, 4 minutes, I'm going to burn the top of that pizza. 2 minutes for me seems to be ideal. Anywhere from 90 seconds to 120, 150 seconds is perfect. 2 minutes for class will be fine. Sometimes I like more char, sometimes I like less. So it really depends. My kids don't like a lot of char, so I might only broil for, say, 60 seconds. And it just gives it a little jump start. It gets that steel a little bit hotter than the 450 that we started from. And it's a really nice temp to launch. If I have a gas ovens are amazing because once I turn the broiler on, it almost goes on simultaneously. Which is awesome, right? So gas, be careful because it gets ripping hot again. And now you preheated your steel probably at 500. We can launch almost as soon as we turn that broiler on, and it's going to get scorching hot. So again, your rhythm might be a little different than mine. If you have a gas oven, electric oven, your rhythm could still be different. Each oven's a little bit unique. I just recommend using a timer. Be mindful each step of the way. What I'm going to do today is after 90 seconds, I'm going to move my pizza probably onto the bottom steel and turn my broiler off. That way I know I can protect the top from getting too dark. I'll try. Can't promise. I'll try. So let's go peek inside. I'm going to show you what it's been so here's inside my oven. That's been about, actually it's been about 2 minutes. So here we go. Right? Can you see that? It's really gets a nice color on top, right? It's got some nice color in the dark. It's dark a little bit. I could probably go a little darker. I kind of like the way it is. But underneath won't be cooked yet. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pardon my hand for a second here. I'm going to move this to the bottom steel, close that up. I'm going to put this on the bottom. You see what I did there? I'm going to close my oven, turn my broiler off, and go back to convection. I can go back to convection at probably, I'll go to 500 just for fun. My oven's back on convection. Boom. I'm going to put my timer on again. I'm going to put 3 minutes on just for fun. I have my oven door open quite a bit, which we lose quite a bit of heat when we do that. Ideally, I want to work fast, not with one hand and a phone in the other, which I do that quite a bit. But we've got a couple of minutes now. That oven's going to continue. That bottom steel is actually hotter than my top steel. This is great when I'm doing multiple pizzas because if I was to I could literally launch another pizza on that top steel right now as that bottom one's cooking. So I can make multiple pizzas in a session, which is outstanding. Let's get to some questions if we can in between. what is the protein content of the flour I'm using? Let's take a peek. I'm using a organic, high protein bread flour from Central Milling, and the protein content is 13.5, which is high, which is really high. King Arthur bread flour has I think their organic bread flour is also pretty high. I like that high protein. This flour to me is so great. It can literally withstand really long fermentations. Like because I was sick last week, I told you guys on Wednesday or Monday, I made a bread with the 7-day dough on, it was awesome. I made a dough on, which day? Wednesday? On Monday, I made bread and it was great. 7-day dough. I couldn't make pizza. How close is the steel to the heating element? So I've got my steel on my second rack. We'll peek inside the oven again in a few minutes, which is about 7 inches from the top. I can go higher, however, with that broiler and it's too high, even though my racks slide out, it's going to be really tight and you're going to really burn the pizza. So you're going to be really careful if you do that. Let's see, why do you not let the broiler stay longer prior to putting the pizza on the steel? Great question. If I had a gas oven, which I have a gas oven at home when I'm making pizzas, I can let my broiler stay on longer. Electric ovens, they cycle. Even though I've tricked this one at 450 and preheated it, it's still going to cycle on and off. So I find if I let it stay on too long, when I go to launch, it might fade out on me. So I with my electric ovens, I tend to launch it pretty quick. Again, I know the cycle of my oven. Yours might be different than mine. It's just one of those things you want to take some notes. Oh, my broiler stays on for X once it's preheated at 450, right? So just be mindful of how long it stays on. That's why I do it that way. It seems like it would get the steel hotter than better char on the bottom. Yes, correct. It would. Let's go back in the oven. We'll get back to questions in a second. Turn that off. You see inside there? It's cool. I'm gonna slide my rack out. It's really pretty nicely done. Can you guys see here? If you look underneath, you can see it's got a nice color. It's really pretty. It's ready to rock and roll. So what I'm going to do is remove this, just like this. It's hot, so I'm going to be careful, right? Boom. Isn't that gorgeous, guys? Pretty, right? And then if I go underneath, you can see underneath here, there's some nice color on the bottom too. Cheese looks great. It melted really nice. Not too much char, like my kids would approve. It's gorgeous. Ready? So now look at that. It's cooked really pretty. Underneath, it's cooked nice. There's my top. It's unbelievable. It's gorgeous. Let's get this camera back here. You guys can see what I'm doing. Beautiful, right? If I want to add a little bit of basil, I can. You don't have to, but I might, right? Rip my leaves off. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, I got a big piece here. Beautiful. There's our nice pizza. Crispy, gorgeous, so fun to make. The aroma smells amazing. Super pumped about it. Let's get to some more questions, you guys. What if you only have, great question. What if I only have one steel? I didn't want to, it's tricky. I didn't want to confuse you guys. I shouldn't have did that, but one steel is all you need. All you need to remember is that you want to, I didn't want to get too dark. So I have to like be really bird dogging my broiler. I probably would have used, in fact, this was fine. This is about 2 minutes under the broiler. It's perfect. You can see it's not too dark. It's really just a nice color to it. I was just being really careful. And that's why I went underneath. If I didn't turn my broiler off in time, and I'm doing class here, so it's tricky, I could have burned it. I probably would have turned the broiler off after 90 seconds versus 120 if I was just using one steel. One steel is more than adequate to make pizza at home, 100%. I just did it just because I'm teaching, and I've burnt too many pizzas using my broiler before, so I used two. It kind of hid. I was kind of hiding the pizza underneath the steel so it wouldn't get too dark. And I can tell we did a good job with it. You guys, good team effort there. If you make a second pizza, do you just leave it? Yeah, if I'm making multiple pizzas, I will just leave the broiler on. I've done that many times. I literally just take it, move it down to the bottom, and then launch that new one on top. I wait about the 2 minutes, and then you kind of every 2 or 3 minutes, you're recycling a new pizza out of your oven, which is phenomenally fast. I can't even keep up. And is the meat pre-cooked? I didn't use any meat on this pizza. This is literally just cheese to crushed tomatoes and cheese, no meat. If I did use, like, say, sausage, and I sliced it thin enough, I would not pre-cook it. It's going to cook in that 5 or 6 minutes it's in the oven. I hope that helps. How do you reheat pizza? That's a really good question. So see this one here? I cooked it probably about 85 to 90% because I know I'm going to bring this home later. I'm not going to slice it today or today. I'll slice it tonight. It's just easier for me to reheat this entire pizza in the oven. I wouldn't have used basil maybe on my steel. I'll just put it back in there for about a minute or two at 500 and boom, it'll be reheat beautifully on my steel. Hey, and it's for clarity, what rack is the best one to place the steel on? And do you recommend convection or conventional setting? Great question. If I have one steel, I'm using convection 100% of the time. If I'm making pizza or pies or anything, I always use convection. My steel will go on the second to top rack in my oven because I don't want it too close to the broiler. I want it second down, which is about 7 inches for me. I always bake on convection. To me, the convection is just the span in the back of the oven that blows. And what it does, it gives a nice steady heat throughout your oven. The convection just makes it more steady, more even, especially with my steels inside. It's going to be a beautiful bake. You can see this one is pretty well cooked. It's gorgeous, right? And it smells amazing too. What rack placement for the bottom steel? Very bottom. So for my oven, let me just double check that. I'm on the second to bottom. For me, I leave a little bit of gap in mine. And so if I'm doing breads, I use the bottom steel. I don't use the broiler for bread. So I just leave I kind of have this, like, let's take a look. I've got my steel, you can see about, it's about 6, 7 inches from the top, right? And my bottom, I can go a little bit lower, right? But I've got this really nice gap in between for breads. That's why I have my 2 steels placed the way they are. I could go lower with that bottom steel, 100%. For some reason I haven't. That's my setup. And this oven, shout out to Monogram, beautiful oven. Look at that, nice. And the nice thing about this oven, I can actually fire it up from the road. I have an app on my phone, and if I'm running late and I know my oven's clean, I can actually fire this up, preheat my steel before I get here. How amazing is that? And it works every time so far. Incredible. Any other questions, you guys? Drop them in the box there. Is this helpful? You guys get some good tips, some good ideas? Let me know here. Awesome. Super cool. Well, I think you guys are amazing. Next week, we're doing English muffins on the stovetop. On my mini griddle or skinny griddle on top, we're going to do English. Going to be phenomenal. Thank you. Thanks, Christina. Thank you for coming, you guys. As always, we'll do a follow-up on everything we talked about today. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, andres@bakingsteel. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. We'll help you make great pizza. All right. Thank you, guys. Super cool. You guys are amazing. Thank you.